Right now, somewhere beneath the ocean, a predator is hanging motionless in total darkness, waiting for a meal it may not see for weeks. In a forest half a world away, a mother is putting her own body between her babies and something that wants to eat them. And high above the treetops, another creature is calling out with a communication system whose meaning scientists are only beginning to decode. They live in worlds that will never touch. They survive in ways that couldn't be more different. And yet every single one of them, at this exact moment, is fighting the same battle. The oldest battle on Earth. The battle to make it through just one more day. We like to imagine our planet as a calm and quiet place. But the truth is, Earth never sleeps. Not for a second. While you've been listening to me, millions of tiny dramas have been playing out all around the globe. Something was hunting. Something was hiding. Something was being born, and something else was running for its life, with no idea whether it would live to see the sunset. This is not a list of facts. This is a journey around the only world we've ever found that's absolutely overflowing with life. From the crushing black of the deep sea to the burning sand of the desert, from the frozen north to the endless grasslands, we're going to meet the survivors. So let's begin where every day on Earth begins. Not in the light, but in the dark, in the last quiet hour before the sun climbs over the horizon. In that hour before dawn, the world belongs to a completely different cast of characters. High in the branches of an old tree, an owl is finishing the last hunt of the night. Its wings are so soft that the mouse below may not hear the wing beats until it is already too late. Down on a moonlit beach, a sea turtle hatchling, no bigger than the palm of your hand, has just broken free from the sand. It has never seen the ocean, but something ancient inside it knows exactly where to go. So it runs, flippers slapping against the wet sand, racing toward the sound of the waves, and it is not alone. Crabs are closing in, birds are circling overhead. The odds that this tiny hatchling reaches the water are heartbreakingly small, and it has only seconds to beat them. Not far away, beneath the surface of the sand, an entire colony of ants is already awake, rebuilding tunnels that were destroyed just yesterday. Each worker hauling loads many times its own weight. Out in the open sea, a whale releases a long, low call that travels for miles through the black water. And somewhere in that vast darkness, another whale hears it and answers back. Every one of these stories is happening at the very same instant. Millions of lives, millions of desperate choices, all unfolding quietly while most of the world is still asleep. And to make sense of any of it, we first have to understand the single rule that binds all of these creatures together. A rule older than the forests and older than every species alive today. That rule is brutally simple. Survive. Find a way to reach the next sunrise, whatever it costs. Nowhere is that rule more naked than on the wide open plains of Africa. Picture a single gazelle standing in a sea of tall, golden grass. From a distance, she looks calm, but look closer, and you'll see she is never truly relaxed. Her ears swivel constantly. Her eyes sweep the horizon. Every few seconds, she lifts her head and freezes, because deep in her bones, she knows that somewhere out there in that grass, something is watching her. That something is a lioness. And here's what I need you to understand. She is not cruel, and she is not evil. She's a mother. A short distance away, hidden in the shade, her cubs are waiting, and they haven't eaten in 2 days. If she fails tonight, they might not survive the week. So when she finally begins to move, low and silent through the grass, she is not moving out of hatred. She is moving out of hunger and out of love, and the two are impossible to separate. Then it happens. The gazelle catches her scent, and the world explodes into motion. The lioness charges, a blur of muscle and speed. The gazelle bolts, twisting and cutting through the grass, running for her life. For a few breathless seconds, it could go either way. And this is the part almost nobody stops to think about. In this story, there is no villain. The lion is not a monster. The gazelle is not simply a victim. They are two halves of the same ancient bargain. Every time the lion grows faster, the gazelle is pushed to grow faster too. Every time the gazelle sharpens her senses, the lion has to grow smarter. For millions of years, these two rivals have been quietly shaping each other, locked in a race that neither can ever truly win. If a story told this way is what you've been looking for, take a second right now to subscribe to Wild Side Stories, because this is only the first thread of a much bigger web we're going to explore together. But raw strength and blinding speed are only one way to stay alive, because some animals survive using a completely different strategy. Instead of running or fighting, they simply convince the entire world that they were never there at all. In the warm shallows of a coral reef, an octopus is showing us just how far that strategy can go. In less than a single second, it changes the color of its skin to match the rock beside it. Then, it does something even stranger. It changes its texture, turning smooth flesh into something rough and jagged, until it doesn't just blend into the reef, it becomes the reef. A predator could swim directly over it and never realize a meal was hiding right beneath it. Out in the merciless heat of the desert, the camel takes a different approach. Its hump doesn't store water, as many people assume, but fat, and its real gift is a whole suite of physical adaptations that let it go far longer without drinking than most animals ever could. It doesn't fight the desert. It simply outlasts it. And in the frozen forests of the far north lives a small frog that does something that sounds impossible. When winter arrives, this frog does not run, and it does not hide. Instead, it freezes. Much of the water outside its cells turns to ice, and its heartbeat and its breathing temporarily stop. Special protective sugars flood its body to keep its cells from being destroyed. For weeks, it lies still and silent in the cold. And then spring returns. The ice slowly melts, and the frog thaws back to life, blinks, and simply hops away, as if it had only been sleeping. Not one of these creatures is the strongest in its world. But out here, being strong is only a small part of the story. Again and again, the ones who make it are not the toughest or the fiercest. They are the ones who bend, who adapt, who find a way to change. And that quietly raises a question that turns everything we think we know about animals upside down. What if some of them aren't running on instinct at all? What if some of them are actually thinking? For the longest time, we told ourselves a comforting little story. We said that animals only act on instinct, that they don't really think, they just react. But the closer we look, the harder that story becomes to believe. Consider the crow. A crow can memorize a single human face and remember it for a long time. In one well-known experiment, researchers wore distinctive masks while capturing a few crows, and long afterward, those same birds recognized the masks on sight and scolded anyone wearing them. The crows had learned to associate that face with danger, and remarkably, that wariness even seemed to spread to other crows that had never been captured themselves. Crows also fashion crude tools, bending and shaping materials to reach food their beaks alone can't. That is not a reflex. That is problem solving. Other animals reveal their cleverness in their own ways. Dolphins coordinate as a team when they hunt, herding fish into a tight ball so the whole group can feed. Elephants carry a mental map of dozens of relationships, remembering old companions across a lifetime. And that clever octopus we met on the reef has been known, in captivity, to unscrew a jar from the inside, to reach the food within, and to squeeze its boneless body through impossibly small gaps and slip out of its tank, apparently while exploring its surroundings. And here is the detail that truly stops me in my tracks. Intelligence did not appear in just one lucky corner of the animal kingdom. Nature arrived at it over and over again, independently, in creatures with feathers and fins and trunks and tentacles, each one reaching cleverness by its own strange and separate path. But once you accept that an animal can think, you are forced to confront something deeper, something we are often afraid to admit they might also do: feel. Because life out here is not only about survival and cleverness. There is something else moving beneath the surface, something that looks an awful lot like care. Watch a herd of elephants the moment a young calf slips and tumbles into trouble, and you will see the entire family close ranks around it. They trumpet in alarm, form a wall of bodies, and refuse to move forward until the little one is safe. And elephants do something even harder to explain. They have been seen returning to the remains of their own kind, gently touching the bones with their trunks and lingering there, showing a striking interest in the bones and tusks of other elephants long after death. Out in the ocean, whales and dolphins have been observed staying close to a dead companion, and mothers have been seen carrying a lifeless calf for days across miles of open water. Scientists actually do have names for behaviors like these. They call it death-related behavior or epimelectic behavior, a kind of care directed toward another. What we can't yet say for certain is what, if anything, the animal feels on the inside. The behavior is real and well documented. Whether it is grief, in the way we know grief, is a question we simply can't answer yet. So I'm not going to promise you that these animals feel exactly the way we do. Their inner lives may be very different from ours, but their actions, the risks they take, and the attention they pay to their dead reveal bonds that are impossible to ignore. And thankfully, life in the wild is not all danger and loss, because nature also produces behaviors that look wonderfully funny to human eyes. Yes, funny. Once you start looking, the animal world can be surprisingly comical, at least to us. Somewhere in a rainforest right now, a male bird is performing a dance he is absolutely convinced is irresistible. He puffs out his chest, snaps his feet out to the side, and hops in a wobbly little circle with total confidence, while the female he's trying so hard to impress just stares at him, thoroughly unimpressed, as if she's seen this exact routine 100 times before. Some birds take it even further. Instead of just dancing, they build. One kind of male spends days constructing and decorating a little stage on the forest floor, carefully arranging berries, flowers, shells, and sometimes even scavenged scraps of bright plastic, all in the hope that a passing female might stop and admire his work. He is, quite literally, decorating a space to impress a date. But underneath all of this color and comedy, there is a much quieter truth that almost every one of us overlooks. The animals that matter the most are usually the ones we never even notice. We are drawn to the giants, the lions, the elephants, the great white sharks. They get the spotlight, and the fear and the awe. But so much of what keeps this planet running depends on creatures that most of us walk right past without a second glance. Take the bee, a small, buzzing insect that most people instinctively wave away. And yet, pollinators like bees help flowering plants reproduce, and more than 3/4 of the world's leading crop types benefit, at least in part, from animal pollination. A great deal of the variety on your plate exists because of the quiet, tireless work of insects you might find a little annoying. Look down at the dirt beneath your shoes, and you'll find the humble earthworm endlessly plowing through the soil, turning it and aerating it, keeping it rich and alive so that everything growing above can thrive. Drift out into the open ocean, and you'll find phytoplankton, drifting clouds of life so small you can't see them, forming the base of the marine food web and producing a large share of the oxygen in every breath you take. None of these creatures will ever star in a nature film, but strip them away, and the living systems we all depend on begin to unravel. Which brings us, at last, to one final creature in this story. A creature that loves to imagine it stands completely apart from all the rest. Us. We have a deep habit of talking about nature as though it's something out there, something separate and distant, a place we visit on the weekend or watch through a screen from the safety of our couch. But that's a comforting illusion. We are not standing outside this world, looking in. We are standing right in the middle of it. One more animal sharing the same crowded, fragile, extraordinary planet with everything else. Every creature in this story is connected to the others, whether they understand it or not. Pollinators help plants reproduce. Those plants feed the animals that graze, and those animals, in turn, sustain the hunters. Each link quietly helps hold the others in place. So when one of those links is weakened, the effects can ripple outward in ways that are hard to predict, spreading further than we'd expect, until eventually they reach all the way back to us. Understanding these animals, then, isn't just an act of curiosity. It's a first step towards seeing the natural world for what it really is. Not a pretty backdrop for our busy lives, but a single living, breathing web that we are woven into, thread by thread. And the moment you truly see that web, you begin to grasp how many astonishing stories are still out there, hidden in plain sight, waiting to be told. Because that is what this planet truly is. Not one story, but millions of them, all unfolding at the very same time, in the deep ocean, the tangled forest, and the frozen ends of the earth. Some of these animals are dangerous. Some are brilliant. Some are strange. Some are badly misunderstood. And some are unexpectedly funny. But every last one of them, from the greatest predator to the smallest insect, has a story worth telling. And here, on Wild Side Stories, those are the stories we're going to bring you, week after week, pulling back the curtain on the hidden lives of the animals that share our world. So if today's journey stirred even a little wonder in you, take a moment to subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss the next one. Because out there, right now, in the dark and the deep and the wild places of the earth, the next unforgettable story is already beginning. And trust me, you are not going to want to miss where it takes us.